Producing. Got a full house. This is very, very strange. We're going to call this episode. We have Dave Wolf. Very easy name to remember. Plug that in your head. This is going to be a very interesting show. Exposing the strange is his topic. He is primarily focused on Bigfoot.
Bigfoot and other cryptids like the Dogman. Different things. You know, the study of cryptozoology is the study of creatures that are said to exist but not proven to exist by science.
I personally do not dabble into this, but after the show I might. So, real quick to go around the room, we have Matt Ross returning.
Woo, yeah.
How you doing, Matt? Thank you for coming back on. And the connection we have is Matt.
We've known each other since we were little kids growing up in the same neighborhood, and then kind of lost track of each other and reconnected sometime later in our adult lives.
All right. Mm-hmm. And then we have some producer help here. This room is full of tons of talent. Everybody in here does some sort of production editing. Dave does it actually for a full-time living. And we're going to call his side hustle / creative outlet is what he's making a full-on documentary of this Bigfoot. And we'll get into that soon. But we got some guys on the couch. Alex from Cage Thunder, a.k.a. Alex Henry. And
Travo.
And Travo, which still don't know this guy. He's sitting there, but you're welcome to come.
I've known both these guys since I've known these guys also since we were young. We all went to high school together, so I'm here for support.
Yeah, we're having a good time. All right, so let's get this show started. I'm gonna turn this over to Matt. He's studied a little bit more into this than I have, so go ahead with it, Matt.
Well, I think we'll just start asking the questions. I mean, when did you get started in pursuing cryptology and
Cryptozoology.
Why? Cryptozoology.
Yeah, different from cryptology.
Okay.
Well, real quick, before we start, exposingthestrange.com is your website,
Yes.
and you also have a YouTube channel,
Yes, by the same name.
Exposing the Strange.
Yes, and a Facebook page.
Got it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
He's got a lot more viewers than us, but that'll change.
That'll change. So go ahead with what you're saying.
So, basically, it's been about 3 years. In February, it'll be 3 years. I've been working on a full-length documentary. I got interested in cryptids. I was always interested in horror films. And at some point, maybe about 5 or so years ago, it kind of transferred over into, like Bigfoot movies and other weird cryptid creatures, like the Dogman and, lizard creatures and whatever else. And I've always had a fascination, and I really wanted to produce my own documentary. I've always had a desire to do that, a full-length documentary. So, I sat down one day and thought about different topics that I was interested in, and I said, I'm really interested in, the whole cryptids, like Bigfoot, and I decided to, kind of go full bore, and I started, listening to the podcast and studying, various websites and talking to people that were kind of had an interest in it. And then it took me a while to actually get really quality interviews. I lucked out on my first interview with the guy, Paul Seaburn from the mysteriousuniverse.org, I think is his website. And that website's chock full of a lot of different weird cryptids, like cryptid, UFO, paranormal stuff. And I found out that he lived right in Brecksville, which at the time I was living in Hudson. So he was really close. So he came over to my house and I interviewed him. And that's kind of how everything kicked off. And then from there, I ended up meeting, an author, Doug Waller, who's just released his 6th book on Bigfoot. He compiles a lot of stories about people who've had encounters and sightings. And then he put me in touch with more people actually on the ground, field researchers. And it just kind of started rolling from there. But it took it probably took a good year and a half before I actually started really getting the quality interviews that I wanted and stuff. And at that time, I was just retelling other people's stories. And then I met a researcher named Richard McCandlish, who has been studying Bigfoot. He had his first encounter when he was really young, so he's been studying Bigfoot and the Ohio grassman, which he says there's 2 different types.
Have you had your first encounter?
I have not had an encounter, but I've been very, very close. I have a story if you want me to get into it about how close I've been.
What do your friends and family think of this?
Well, my girlfriend, when we first met, wasn't really, and we've been together for almost 8 years now, and she kind of jokes about it. She's like, when we first met, if you told me that you were really into Bigfoot, I don't know what I'd think about that. But now she really supports me. She comes out on investigations with me. One of the areas I'm investigating in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It's got a lot of activity, and so she's fully supports me, and she loves hiking and being outdoors with me. So
cool. Your partner's on board. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Before you met your now girlfriend 8 years ago, not to rewind, but my mind works on timelines. So you guys were all pretty much college on, friends off and on. So you went to OU, and then after OU, Ohio University, you went to lived in 5 different states. You did professional editing. You worked for the NFL. Mm-hmm. You worked on You did a job commissioned through the military. Mm-hmm. You did some work for the Oprah show.
Well, I had a job where I used to travel all around North America and the Caribbean. So yeah, I went to a lot of different places. Yeah, and
that was for a long extended time. And he still works professionally. This is not some just guy we found. This is a very intelligent guy. He does video editing for a living. This is his world that we're gonna dabble a little bit into. So I'm sure Matt has some points that he wants to kind of talk about.
Yeah, I think, well, it's funny you get back to that point of like, what do your friends and family think? Like, Dave and I have been friends we go mountain biking together. We go on trips together with my wife and his girlfriend. And when he first started getting into Bigfoot, I gotta be honest, I was shocked. I was like, you're what? You're investigating Bigfoot.
And you had, Matt, I'm gonna be honest, had some hesitations with you coming on the show. Because Matt called it like razzing or like.
Well, I didn't want to. I had hesitations of him coming on the show because my concern was I don't want to. There's a
level of there's a level of secrecy to what you guys are doing. You don't. What do you call it? You don't want to expose all your trade secrets. Right?
Correct.
To other investigators, because at the end of the day, you want to meet the guy or girl. Right. What was it? Is Bigfoot's a guy, right? So at the end of the day, your end goal is to meet him. So is there multiple Bigfoots? Is there one Bigfoot? What is it?
There's multiple Bigfoots.
Okay, more than one. I didn't know
and
that.
there's males and females, and there's children, or they call them youths.
This is all new to me.
And
this is mind blowing.
And they're part of clans. So a clan might be, 3 or 4 different families of Bigfoots.
So I'm going to refer this as a camping trip. You think about it all week. You work your day job, right? You text your buddy, what are you bringing, blah, blah, blah. You call this an actual term. You said investigation trips. So do you camp? How long are these? When is it like a weekend thing, or is it you have a feeling on a Monday night and you want to go? Like how does that mind process work?
It really depends. A lot of the investigations I've been on are with the researcher I go out with down in the Hocking Hills area, Richard. And a lot of those are mostly during the day, but we have stayed in a very active area that he calls the pit down there. We camped down there a couple times out in the woods, but a lot of times these are day investigations, just for the day. You'll be out there all day, maybe in 2 different locations or, one
Sun
location.
goes down, you guys are out, you go home to your normal lives.
Correct, unless we're doing a night investigation, and that seems to be where you get the most activity.
So that's the event. In a nutshell,
Mm-hmm.
an investigation is an event. It's pre-planned on how long you're going to stay there, and there's an end to it.
Unless weather moves in and you have
Yeah.
to leave. Yeah,
So do you guys pack heat when you go into these investigations?
we always have a sidearm.
Okay.
There's
Questions?
There's a threat. Go no. You
Well, I don't know. Is Bigfoot
Well, there's-
Is Bigfoot dangerous? Do we
Well,
know? Is
okay.
he?
Well, a lot of
It could
times
be.
it's not just because of, stumbling across a Bigfoot or a Dogman. It's also, there's other animals out there.
Yeah.
There's coyotes.
Sure.
There's other animals. And
Coyotes are kind of pussies, though. Let's be honest.
sometimes.
We'll put this out.
unless they're in big packs. I mean, you never know. Plus, I think the thing that scares me most is running into some weird human out in the middle of the woods that's doing something
Like
that-
you guys running into yourselves. if I were out there in the
I want to
woods,
try to
I'd
keep
be
it.
concerned.
I want to understand his thought process. So let's
yeah.
not even go down that route because that gets into the making fun. We're just gonna avoid that. I really want to understand because you're not the only one out there that does this.
Not at all.
You've got a ton of competition. So your event, you want a successful event. You don't want any interruption. So packing heat or whatever. When you find this person, Bigfoot, male, female, whatever, do you have a conversation you want to start with them? Do you have something that or is that something you want to keep to yourself?
So
You have questions for them?
Richard has taught me a few words,
So they don't
because
speak English.
No, they don't speak English.
Of course not.
So
I don't know. You got a little fuzz right here.
So he actually communed with the youth Bigfoot, I think for 2 or 3 years.
That's not creepy.
Well, they actually, I don't know all the details about it, but he's explained some of what's happened, and he says you can communicate with them, but they don't speak English. But he has amassed. He has journals he's put together because they make things out of sticks and stones that you find in the forest. We call them wood talk. When we go on investigations, we'll find prints. We've casted a lot of prints. He has a Bigfoot casting that's, I think, 24 inches long.
Alex, you want to switch? You got some questions. I know you do. Switch with me.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening.
All right, switch.
Good.
I got to go for a second. All right.
So when you guys are out here investigating, my question is, what types of equipment or methods do you use to try to find them?
Well, when Richard was in the military, he was a professional tracker, so he knows how to track humans, animals. So he's taught me some of that. But one of the things we do, to cast prints when we find a print, we use what's called a hydrocal. It's a lot better than plaster of Paris, and it holds a lot better, and it doesn't break like that. So we carry that with us. We also, you always want to carry like a tape measure or a ruler, just to be able to measure it for the photos. Because some of the prints you can't cast; they're not castable, especially like if they're in a creek bed where there's a lot of water. We have for nighttime, we have a couple infrared cameras. We also have, I just recently purchased over the summer, a thermal camera, a FLIR. So all that stuff goes in our arsenal. We have parabolic microphones that will reach, I think, 3 football fields. And I've definitely recorded things on those. So, and then when I go out in the field, I actually have a couple audio recorders that all actually leave in the woods overnight, like off trail in different areas. And I've recorded some very interesting sounds that I can't explain.
Yeah. So Dave, what would you say? You're working on this documentary right now. What's the goal of your documentary? Is it to, prove to people that yes, this is a real thing? Is it to educate people? Like, what's the goal process with this?
So, my brand, Exposing the Strange, it could go, this one is focused on Ohio cryptids. So I basically want to show whoever's watching, the world, whatever, that there are these creatures living in Ohio and not way back in the woods. They're a lot closer than you think. A lot of times they're around, communities. We've been building subdivisions in woods, clearing woods, pushing these things, all animals, not just these cryptids, but pushing them all further and further into the woods. And I don't really think they have really any place to go. So there's been it seems like the last 3 to 5 years, there's been an uptick in encounters with, not just Bigfoot, but like the Dogman as well.
So why is Ohio such a hot spot? Like, why not Iowa or some other? Like, it seems like there's a couple states around the country, and Ohio is one of them. What makes Ohio such a hot spot for Bigfoot?
Ohio has, well, first of all, the eastern side, definitely down into the southeast, but the whole eastern side of Ohio is different from the western side of Ohio. It's got a lot of valleys, and it's kind of more mountainous, especially as you get towards West Virginia. And the habitat, it's not very populated either, and it has a big deer population. So you have a lot of rivers. These are big creatures. They need water. One of the guys I go researching with in Coshocton, Jay Fouch, that's all he does is he tracks these things along the waterways. There's 5 major rivers that come into Coshocton. So I think the habitat in Ohio is perfect for them.
Now, there's Bigfoot, there's Dogman. Something I kind of know a little bit about is the Yahoo in West Virginia, just because I know some people who have claimed to have encounters with that. Why is it so hard to find them, to see them? Why can't anybody get the perfect video or the perfect
Why are they always
evidence?
fuzzy pictures?
Well,
Right. That's what everybody wants to ask.
Well, this is what I've come to realize. Well, when you're out there hiking, first of all, they don't want to be seen by humans. But when you're out there hiking, a lot of these encounters only last for seconds. Let's say 3 to 5 seconds. For you to get a really awesome picture, you'd have to have your camera already out. You'd already have to have it frame, the framing right, the focus right. And if that thing's gonna seize you and turns around and takes off the other way, and they can hear you coming.
Let's say you
a
did
mile
all
away.
that, though. Isn't there's another theory, and I think you told me this once. Like, let's say I did all that, and I had the perfect placement, and I stood still, and I got the picture, and it still turns out fuzzy. There's another theory to that too.
Well,
right?
there's a theory. It's called a Heineken shine. It's a theory that their fur is almost like. Have you ever seen a fiber optic
Yeah.
cable? It's clear, but if you shine different lights through it, it will light up different colors. There's a theory that their fur is kind of I don't want to say similar to fiber optic cables, but the Heineken shine theory goes that basically
I like to get me a little Heineken shine.
their hair reflects what's around them, so that they can kind of camouflage themselves that way. It's a theory.
So right now you're looking for Ohio-based creatures, right? Would you say like your specific is, so what separates the Dogman from Bigfoot, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, the Dogman is an upright walking canine. And it is, I mean, if you were just to look at it, it would look like a werewolf. So that's what the Dogman is. There were a lot of Dogman sightings in Michigan in the 80s. There was a song that came out about the Dogman in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Some DJ wrote it up there and everything. But there have been a plethora of Dogman sightings. I just put out a video a couple weeks ago about 3 recent Dogman sightings in Ohio, and one of them was one that I had. And the interesting thing is, I work in Strongsville, and there's a small park around there that I usually walk, if the weather's nice on my lunch breaks. And it was on August 1st of 2023, and I was probably 20 minutes into my hike. It's a loop, and about 20 minutes in, you're on the back side of it, and it's pretty wooded and it's pretty secluded. If there's no other people there, you really feel like you're by yourself, even though it's a smaller park. And I heard a lot of thrashing and kind of stomping around, and it was probably about 120 feet off of the path, and I couldn't see anything, but all I had was my cell phone on me, and I just started taking pictures. And then it took me a couple months before I actually looked at the pictures. And when I got home and I zoomed in on one of the pictures, there is an all-black canine, almost like a German Shepherd looking creature there in the trees staring back at me. And I went back to that exact spot, and it's in that video. I actually walked back there in where it was, and where it was, it's a big briar patch, and it slopes down like 4 or 5 feet. So that thing had to be pretty tall.
Are they hostile?
The Dogmen seem to be more hostile than the Bigfoot.
Why is that? Why? I mean, what do they do different?
They actually they don't care if it almost seems like the Dogman wants to scare people. I wouldn't say that I've heard stories at different places, like people being attacked in different areas, like in Kentucky, land between the lakes. There's been a lot of Dogman sightings there, and supposedly they killed a family back in the 70s or 80s. But the Dogman, I think, actually, from all the encounters that I hear, they actually kind of enjoy scaring people. People have talked about them sneering at them and showing their teeth before they turn around and run away.
So what do you think of all these? Bigfoot, Yeti, Dogman, are they aliens? Are they government experiments? Are they general just evolution of species, or maybe something else? I mean, what's your gut feeling of what these are?
Well, my gut feeling is that some of them are, from this earth, that, but there's other theories. It kind of gets blurry, because the interesting thing is there are a lot of UFO encounters where people have seen a UFO in the sky or an orb, and then literally minutes or hours later, they've also seen a Bigfoot in the same area. So I don't know if those are related or not. But as far as the Dogman go, there's a lot of speculation about, they talk about, I've listened, I haven't had any firsthand accounts with this, but people talking about how the government has experimented and trying to create a super soldier, and they've infused canine DNA with human DNA. They also tried bear and monkey or gorilla DNA, and I think it was actually documented in Russia that the Russian government actually tried to do that. They tried to build a super soldier. So there's a lot of theory. There's a lot of theories with the Dogman, that there's different types of Dogman. I mean, I interviewed a guy outside of Cincinnati that swears that there's a type 1, type 2, type 3, and then the super soldier Dogman, that he has all of them on his property. But that's speculation.
Yeah, so you keep talking about these people having encounters and people in. How do you decipher what you believe? Like, what is hearsay, and then what is okay, this
how do you
seems a
say
little more true.
I call bullshit on that or not? That's what it gets down to.
Well, a lot of the stuff you see on YouTube and TikTok is bullshit. It's hoaxed, fake stuff. So I mean, I don't know if you're really gonna know unless you sit down and interview somebody, or actually know where their photos came from, or the background behind what they're presenting. I mean, how are you really gonna know if it's real or not?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody who is interested in maybe watching your documentary to say this is why you should believe what my research says?
Well, I'm probably not the only one that says this, but I'm not going to put I'm going to put stuff in there that I know that I've vetted and that I think is real footage, real photos, from credible sources. I have some footage, like Rich has some older footage that he shot where he's actually recorded a Bigfoot on video. That's going to be in there. And yeah, when I'd like to talk about as close as I got to a Bigfoot encounter.
Let's talk about
okay,
it. Let's
okay.
hear it. Yeah, I
So-
want to hear this. Yeah.
So there's a pretty well-known researcher down in the Hocking Hills area. His name is Kane, and Kane Michael, and he's pretty well known down there. And we had gone out. Our team teamed up with him, and there was another guy, and we went out on a day investigation. And then that night, he invited us back to his cabin. Now he lives in a real remote area, and he actually bought that cabin to be kind of in Bigfoot territory, and he had a lot of activity out there. So there were 4 of us. There was Richard, another guy named Todd, myself, and Kane. And we had shot kind of a video there where Richard and Kane were talking about their different type of researching techniques and everything. So we had wrapped that up. So then I wanted to shoot some individual interviews. So Kane and I are shooting an interview inside of his cabin while Rich and Todd are sitting outside on the deck. And it's dark out. It's late at night. It's probably around 11, maybe getting closer to midnight. And so behind Kane, there's a window, and he's got a security light back there. And during the middle of our interview, I saw the security light kick on, and I just figured it was one of the guys went walking by. But after the security light kicked on and then went off, there was some scuffling on the deck, and Richard came busting through the door and said, we just saw him. And I'm like, what'd you guys see? And they said they saw, when the security light kicked on, they saw an alpha male Bigfoot standing on the edge of Kane's driveway, and they ended up going back and measuring it the next day, and it was like 14 over 14 feet tall. But the interesting thing is that we all went outside at that point, and we were standing on the deck, and I was standing beside Kane, and I had my infrared camera turned on, and there was an acorn that came straight in and hit Kane's chest and bounced onto the deck. And there were no acorn trees above us. There were no trees at all above us. And so that was kind of interesting to start. And then something started throwing rocks, I think the small little rocks from his driveway he had a metal roof on his cabin. So something started throwing rocks onto the cabin.
All right, wait a minute, though. You just said the 2 guys were outside, you guys were inside.
We came
and
out.
And then rocks are coming on the roof.
Well, we came outside at that point. We all 4 came.
Okay.
So 2 of us. So they came in and said we just saw him. Then we came outside. So we're all 4 outside at this point. And that's when the acorn comes and hits Kane in the middle of the chest. And then we hear these stones hitting the metal roof. So these stones are hitting the metal roof. I'm down in the driveway at this point with my infrared camera kind of panning around. I can't really see anything that well. And the stones, you can hear them hitting the roof. And then there was a point, so that went on for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. And then rocks started hitting the other side of his roof on the other side of his house. So we split up at that point. Two people went on that side, and then Rich and I stayed on the other side. And that lasted for probably about 30 minutes. Something was throwing stones on his roof. And Kane got out his thermal camera, and I don't think he caught anything on his thermal camera. So that's probably the closest I've been to a Bigfoot.
So yeah, I got a couple questions. So
Yeah.
number 1, what is an alpha Bigfoot?
Alpha male is like
alpha male.
probably the biggest. He's the alpha. He's like the leader of the clan, so to speak. Probably the biggest type of Bigfoot you would see.
Now, are there similar encounters that other people have had where there has been a Bigfoot throwing things at people or at their area?
Yes, that's a common. Well, I think for us, it was basically kind of more of like a playful thing. These may have been juvenile Bigfoots, and it seems like the juveniles like to come closer to people and kind of do stuff like that. But, there's a lot of stories and other researchers that have had larger rocks thrown at them when they're back in an area that Bigfoots want to chase them out. That's a typical habit of Bigfoot.
I guess, how do you decide that that's Bigfoot throwing the rocks and not just some punk ass junior high kid? You know what I mean? Like, how do you decide that?
Well, a lot of these reasers, they're miles back into the woods.
Yeah, you're in the middle of nowhere,
Oh,
right?
fair enough. Yeah.
They're in the middle of nowhere, and they're, a lot of these Bigfoots are also, hunters and trackers, and have been in the woods, and, they might come across an area where, all of a sudden something starts throwing rocks at them, and they're not just small rocks at that point. They could be big rocks. I've even heard of like throwing rocks the size of footballs, and they don't hit them, but it's a scare tactic to try to get people to leave the area. That happens frequently.
So I want to kind of backtrack. So we're talking about the Bigfoot, and earlier on you said that we're getting closer and closer to really like lots of people being able to encounter it or so far see them because we've pushed them back, building cities and infrastructure and stuff. How many would you say have left? Like, how many were in America before Columbus, or even during the Native Americans and things like that?
I mean,
what you think?
I don't know. I mean, I would assume that. I mean, I can't assume that there's more or less now. I'm not really sure.
So
one of the things that's interesting, if you look at a lot of the different Native American culture, every different tribe has a story about the hairy man, the hairy creature. They didn't call him Bigfoot.
My wife calls me that sometimes.
They have a bunch of different names for it. Sabe. A lot of these Indian tribes had different names, and some of the tribes actually talk about trading with them, trading goods, like way back. And these stories, if you look across continents, you got the Yeti in the Himalayas, you've got the Yowie in Australia.
Similarities there with all of them.
There's
sure.
These stories, these similar stories span across continents over time, like before modern times.
Right.
They all seem to be connected.
So back to your story. So you said when they're throwing the rocks, they're throwing the acorns. They didn't seem like they were trying to attack. They might have been younger. They might have been playful. In that story, you're talking about how maybe Native Americans traded with these Bigfoot. Is there going to be a day or a way that people are figuring out to really be able to be in touch with these creatures?
I don't think they want to have anything to do with us.
And why is that?
Because
We're dicks, man.
humans
We're
are
dicks.
humans are.
I'm pretty cool. I think a Bigfoot would love to be
Most of
best friends with
humanity
me.
is a bunch of dicks.
I think they realize that humans are destructive and pretty much destroy everything they touch.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. So, okay, so you're doing the documentary right now. That was your Bigfoot encounter. What other things have you kind of ran into since then?
Well, my audio recorders that I've been putting out in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park since February of last year, I've recorded some very interesting sounds. I've recorded some Bigfoot howls and growls. I've recorded what sound like almost like primate sounds, like primate calls out there. I've also recorded one of the recordings I did in October. It was crazy because as I was placing my recorder, I heard probably 4 or 5 wood knocks, and that's pretty much, yeah. And it's like getting dark. I'm the only one out there, and I heard wood knocks, but for that recording, for like 14 or 15 hours, the whole time, and it's really close. You hear something breaking trees, snapping trees, doing wood knocks, doing rock clacks. Like something is pretty much snapping branches all night for like 14 hours. It's wild.
Is that more dogman behavior or Bigfoot behavior?
That's Bigfoot or grassman behavior.
Okay, so grassman. What is grassman? So dogman is wolf type.
Yeah,
creature.
like a canine type creature.
Uh-huh.
Well, Bigfoot and grassman are similar.
Mm-hmm.
According to Richard, the grassman has shorter hair and a different looking nose or face.
And he smokes a lot of grass.
I think, well, I don't know. And then the Bigfoot has the longer hair and a different type of nose or face.
And is the grassman more native to Ohio as well?
Yeah, the grassman is native to Ohio. When they say the grassman, they usually call it the Ohio grassman.
Ohio grassman.
That's definitely an Ohio thing.
Okay, so these animals. So you said that they could be all around, right? So
There's a guy in Coshocton that has a picture of a Bigfoot dragging a tricycle on the ground that he said he got at 3 a.m. in downtown or close to downtown Coshocton.
wow. Well, there's nothing in Coshocton. So like that would make sense that they would want to be down there, right? That's crazy. So if they're all around, like do certain hibernate and then like because like different temperatures and different seasons or things like that, or are they all kind of different, or are they all kind of the same just in different areas?
Well, first of all, I don't think they hibernate. And I know that primates, there's a whole nother thing about some people, like there's some professional people like Dr. Jeff Meldrum who says that they are primates. Primates don't hibernate. Mm-hmm. I kind of don't think that they're primates. I think they're something else. I think they're more related to us. Another researcher, well, the guy from Coshocton, Jay, he said that one time they were looking through his scope and they actually saw one that almost looked like a Neanderthal man. It didn't have a lot of hair on it, but he swears it looked very human to him. So I don't think they're primates.
Do they get like are there like albinos, or they're like
There are
alopecia?
There are white ones. Yeah, I've heard of all different colors, black and brown, or like a reddish color. Or I've heard of albino white Bigfoots. Yeah.
So this is a question, and I'm not trying to refute you, but something that's always been hard for me is if they're real, why do people not find skeleton? Like, why are we not like when they die, or do they die? Are we able to find skulls, bones? Because we're able to find dinosaurs that are millions of years old and find a dinosaur bone.
Or are they supernatural and they're they're not an actual physical being, but something that we're seeing that's not physical, and that might explain that. But what do you think?
Well, I do think that they're intelligent enough to bury their dead. First off, and I think most of the dinosaur bones are found out west, where the soil's not really acidic. And I know that acidic soil, like in a temperate rainforest, basically that type of environment, bones will decompose easier than like out west where it's drier. And then, I ask you, when was the last time you saw, like, do people find bear bones, or other large alpha predator bones?
I think we do, don't we? I mean, people shoot bears and deers and all that kind of stuff.
They shoot them, but do they find their bones just laying out in the woods? I've never seen it. You see deer bones all the time.
Yeah, I was
but-
gonna say I've seen
Yeah.
deer in the woods,
Yeah.
but I
but,
don't know
but
if I
not
have
but
seen.
not but not alpha predators.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
When do they mate?
Rich, I think Rich,
Every day,
Rich,
all
I
day
think Rich,
long.
I think Rich has a theory for that. I think it's either in the spring or in the fall. I'm not sure.
So you started a few groups dedicated to cryptid research. What are they?
We just started it's a private Facebook group called Ohio Cryptid Researchers. And it's easy to join. You just got to answer a couple questions, but we're trying to keep it, kind of tight. We don't want just anybody on there. We want people that are serious and that are interested in it. So that's Facebook, Ohio Cryptid Researchers. I have a Facebook page for Exposing the Strange. It's called Exposing the Strange Ohio Cryptids. I also have a website. It's, exposingthestrange.com. And we're getting ready. I'm going to build a website for ohiocryptidresearchers.com. So those are the easiest ways. And then in my YouTube channel, Exposing the Strange. So yeah, there's a lot of areas that we cover.
Nick's coming back in.
Yeah.
Nick's got a few more questions.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for your time. I learned a lot.
You're welcome.
A lot of things.
No, I didn't leave. I'm accomplishing a lot tonight. I was behind the board. I'm trying to learn the board and stuff.
Yeah.
Listening the whole time. Again, I'm surrounded by all these media people. Can you stay? the podcast scene again. It's a long game. I'm learning all the different softwares. Blah blah blah. So appreciate you guys coming out. Travo, one comment because you've been listening to the whole thing. What do you take away with this whole thing?
Well, the one thing is I've known Dave for a long time.
You're still his
And-
friend.
Huh?
You're still his friend.
I'm still his friend, and I believe in the things that he does. And I've always been myself. I always like to look at all sides of the story.
Right.
I don't discount anything. I believe just about anything is possible. And so I've been more than interested in this the whole time he's been doing this. The footage that he has from this, I'm telling you, it's riveting. If you watch some of these interviews, I literally have goosebumps right now just talking about this. And I went into this too skeptical, but some of the stuff that I have seen and that I have heard that from his research and the things that he's turned out is it is damn interesting. I'll tell you that. And so I'm always following what he's doing, and I follow Exposing the Strange. I pass out the business cards. I try to get people to, keep their minds open and learn something new and interesting like this.
So for the people out there that are skeptical, don't take offense to this, okay? This is an honest question. How do we know you're not faking it? Okay,
Well,
this is
that's
a
good
guy.
question.
Background
It's a
again.
valid question. yeah.
Background gun. Don't take offense to this. Background. You have done professional editing for how many years?
Over 25.
Almost your entire life. You've worked for the NFL. How do we know this is not edited down and made up? Talk on that for a second.
Well, if you look, the funny thing is, I'm putting short videos out on my YouTube channel. 7 to 8 minutes.
Because with AI and everything else, you don't know
So-
what's real, what you're looking at on the
right.
internet.
So
I turned my dog into a cat the other day.
Sure.
yeah.
In a brief 60 seconds, how do you convince the general public that this is real and it's
let
not
me-
just post edit?
All right. Well, let me tell you about some of the public posts on my recent Dogman video. Okay, 3 recent encounters with.
What's it titled? Do you know?
It's 3 recent Ohio Dogman encounters with photos.
Okay.
Okay. So I have the photos on there. One of them's mine, and then the 2 others are from 2 other people. So one of the comments is, "Boy, those aren't real clear. They kind of look like tree stumps to me." And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, they're real photos. I mean, if they were fake, they'd probably look a lot better, right?
Right.
I would probably make them look a lot better if I was faking it. But you know, so it's
You saying that right there tells me you have the ability to fake
I mean, I
it.
could make something. I could make a fake. Yeah. I
Sure.
mean, who couldn't? I mean, people do it all
Again,
the time.
to answer my question in a boom nutshell, how do you know it's not fake? How can you convince the general public it's not fake?
Can you ever convince the general
That's the
public?
eternal struggle right there. I don't
can
think you
say
can, you know?
I can say this is my mission. I will never put out fake content. My stuff may not look the greatest. It might not look like a fucking Hollywood movie. Okay? But it's going to be the real stuff. I don't know. I mean,
Dude.
With that said,
Yeah.
I think you should
I
follow
think
the
the rest
page.
is up to judge and jury.
We
Follow
got
the page
the
Exposing the Strange.
Exposing the Strange.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to Radio Dumpster, like
Full
we always
house.
forget to say.
Thank you again for coming out. Little last minute 2 seconds from Alex. Hop on there, Travo.
I'll say this, you know, I never used to be, I don't know if you would call this conspiracy theories or not, but I never was into it. All of a sudden, I think a lot of it's more interesting just because my mind gets changed with, oh, the government would never do that. And then they do it, you know? So now I don't know what's real and what's not, kind of like you were saying. And I think your research is really cool. So I'm really excited to kind of follow what you do.
All right, Travo, final thoughts?
Final thoughts is I never miss anything that he puts out, and I follow the page. And everybody, always keep your minds open. Anything is possible out there, and this is some really cool and interesting stuff.
I can't forget about John, my co-host John. He's not here tonight. He had his family's sick. He's a little sick, so we're trying to stay safe here in the winter. So I know you're out there, John. We did our best without you, and we tried to keep the show on track. I love you, buddy. Until next time, like, comment, share, Radio Dumpster. I think it was a good, exciting show,
Yeah.
and talk to you guys later. Thank you, David.